we can start. Um, Basically, what I'm going to be going through is sort of, so my background, I do a lot of digital sculpting and I do obviously like some Marvelous as well. It's good to hear that everyone's got Marvelous background. So I'm going to be basically starting in ZBrush and like sort of showing you how I've set up ZBrush and how I sort of start like with ZBrush. I find ZBrush really interesting because you can sort of you create form and like silhouette and create strong silhouettes without sort of having to worry about topology. Because when you start like modeling, basically it's annoying to have to worry about the size of squares and stuff without like being able to focus completely on the form of like a clothes or anything you're creating really. So ZBrush, like you can do like loads of different, you can do one thing in so many different ways. So I feel like it's really interesting to be able to like sort of use like the digital medium as like polygons, but not have to worry about that. So using it as like digital clay basically. I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna be designing. Maybe a vest or a skirt. Um, but I mean, obviously I can't really refine. This is gonna be based on sort of workflow. So I'm gonna be just jumping through and like not really worrying about the design too much right now. So I'm gonna start screen sharing. Also, please like interrupt me. I want to be interrupted. Um, if there's any questions or anything like that. Let me just share the screen. Can everyone see that? Um, yeah, so I don't normally design with the characters from Marvelous or Clo because I feel like they don't have like much form to the body. Like this guy's really skinny. He looks like anorexic, but I can see like the bones and like muscles like beneath his body, and sometimes that informs my design. So that's what I tend to focus on. Um, yeah. So normally when I start, I either like extract or I'll start with like just like a sphere, and then sort of like just start pulling and shaping it around the body. Do you think should we do a vest or a skirt? What do you guys want? Um, Maybe we should do a vest or a skirt. Vest. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do a vest. So yeah, just basically in ZBrush, what I have like my setup is I have like a marking menu with all like the tools that I use. So I have that assigned to like Shift Alt C. So basically I don't have to go into like 'cause ZBrush has so many drop downs, and when you start trying to learn it, you can get really like intimidated by like if I'm trying to find backface mask, like I don't actually know where it is. Like I've been using this somewhere, and yeah, when I first started, I tended to like stay here looking for Z-remesher, like where is it in geometry, is it in subtool? So I just have like a lot of my tools that I use really often here, and when I click this marking menu, like if I click Shift C, then all this comes up, and I don't have to worry about trying to find where like auto groups is, for example. Like I use auto groups quite a lot. Um, but yeah. I also like at this stage I use like a combination of sort of sculptress with snake hook, with symmetry turned on, as well as like Dynamesh. And basically what these are doing are like as I'm pulling these out, you can see that it's reforming all this topology. Um, so basically I don't have to worry, I can focus on form without having to worry about basically the underlying topology. I also have like my setup is I have like my all the brushes that I use like on the number pad, so I don't have to go and click B and then find sort of like which brush I want to use because I know sort of which ones I use quite a lot. Um, so just like running through them yeah, like these are some of the common brushes that I use, and they're sort of, yeah, I can access them really fast, so I can focus on like designing without having to worry about sort of anything else. If there's any questions, please like um let me know. So yeah, uh, what I start doing is sort of forming this around the body and just looking at the patterns sort of between like the body and how that compares to sort of the garment. What I'm going to be doing is sort of going. I'm going to be like creating a really rough form, and then I'm going to use like polygroup it to create polygroups from it, and then UVs from the polygroups. Um, and then from those UVs, I'm going to import them to Marvelous Designer as like a garment. And then that basically makes like a basis for the pattern that you're creating. This is just you have to work on like the Marvelous part a lot more, because it imports with sort of like curvature bits. But yeah, I mean, this just gives me like I have no traditional fashion design experience, so when I try and think like what is this going to look like as a garment, I struggle. What is it going to look like as a pattern? I struggle to like find those shapes, but when I import with UVs, like those are all flattened, so I can find the shape quite easily. I've been really getting into like clay tubes. It's like sort of like clay buildup, but it has like some texture to it, and it's a bit less like rough than clay buildup, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm gonna be really rough with this, not spend too much time, but yeah, normally like snake hook and sculptress work really well for me together. But yeah, I've done some sculpting in Blender as well, but I really like ZBrush for sculpting. It's like my favorite tool. I can do like stuff in so many different ways. But yeah, just really blocking out shapes here. And yeah, basically I want to start thinking I use like dam standard as well. Dam standard like cuts into the mesh, and using that in conjunction with like clay tubes, you can start like defining some planes and where we might like find like these sewing patterns. Like yeah. So maybe we want to align here. I Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. It depends. Normally, I have references and I do some drawings. I'm definitely better at sculpting on ZBrush than I am drawing, but it helps me think about like it helps me think about it more. Like the drawings might not be very good, but it helps me think about it more when designing. And I also normally like the way that I work with Danny, is she'll give me a big mood board, and then I can pull from that sort of some ideas and then try and incorporate those. It depends on the type of project as well. Like sometimes it's really specific what we want, but then some other times it's like less specific, so I can improvise more. Right now, I'm completely improvising, so I don't really know what I'm gonna make. I just know like roughly what it's gonna look like, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I start basically with, I mean, right now it has 60,000 polys, but basically I'm not worrying about the topology or poly count at all right now, because I know like in my workflow I'm gonna like basically create polygroups, which are like colors. Like polygroups are really helpful in ZBrush because you can do a lot of things with them. So if I just mask this part off, for example, and then click Shift W, then you can create a polygroup and you can do lots of different stuff with that. within ZBrush. Okay, no worries, no worries. Please, if anyone has any questions, like they just ask me. Yeah. So yeah, once I'm happy, I mean, I'm not particularly happy with this design, but just for the sake of sort of this, also, yeah, sometimes I find the hands get in the way of like sort of when I'm trying to design. So again, with poly groups, I can just mask like sort of the arms off and then click Shift W and then I can hide them. Also, yeah, another shortcut I'm using is assigned to like F1 and F2, I have like isolate mesh selected. So if I click F1, then it'll hide this body. And that's, you can also find that here, dynamic solo. But I don't always want to click this. So if I have this set up to a hotkey, then it really speeds me up because I can sort of see what's happening on this mesh underneath. So yeah, something like this. So yeah, once supposing I was really happy with this, I'm not particularly happy with it. But what I would do is save because in case it crashes, it probably won't crash, but and then in Z plugin, there is oh no. So yeah, now I'm using the standard tool with there's no add, there's just RGB on this. I need to just set this to a color. What? Switch color. 1 second. RGB add. Why can I not see that? Mm. 1 second, sorry guys. Yeah, so here I'm basically creating some lines which will end up being my sewing pattern. I use this with sculpture so that as I add in here, you can see that it's adding more geo. That just makes me add like a cleaner line. So yeah. Otherwise, like if some of these polys are big, then it can mess up my I'm trying to create this the sewing pattern from this. But yeah, I'll really quickly just add, and these are going to end up being sort of the sewing patterns for the clothes once I import as garment. Maybe something like this. Also, I tend to always get too complicated in sort of the pattern part, and then basically when it comes to Clo and Marvelous Designer, when I try and stitch these together, I'm like, where did they line up? But yeah, so this bit obviously we want this thin, so I'm just going to mask off this part here. This is going to be a bit strange. Maybe like this. That's not going to look good, but. Mhm. I'm just drawing on with RGB. So I'm basically what I'm going to use this for in the next step is I'm going to use polygroup it with borders, without borders, and what that's going to do is like create polygroups for where this is, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining this well. Okay, no worries. So yeah. And then maybe one, I mean, that one's probably fine. Something like this. Yeah. So here now, if I go to polygroup it from paintless borders. What that's going to do is create a polygroup for each sort of, it's going to use that RGB information that's on the vertexes to create a polygroup from. And then, yeah, if it did work, I mean, this one didn't work. Oh no, it did. Just made them a really similar color. So yeah, basically I can turn off colorize now as well. So basically now I have sort of the big shapes of where sort of these sewing lines are going to be. I'm just going to delete sort of these faces. Also, I'm using this marking menu. Delete hidden is somewhere in here, but I can't. I use this marking menu so much, I forget where this stuff is. But it sped me up so much when I started, like, you can like customize ZBrush so much, so you can just dock something here and then make a new folder and then just pull in everything that you use. Does someone know where delete hidden is, or I can just use it from the mark menu somewhere there? Subtool. These drop downs. Who knows? Is like the UI for ZBrush is a bit frustrating at times. Yeah. Also, we didn't create. I'm just going to create another polygroup here because we need space for the arms to go through. I can do this, yeah, by masking. Maybe with a pen so it doesn't go through. Yeah, so here I'm just creating another polygroup because I forgot to draw those lines. You can also, like that step that I did, you can just do it with like traditional masking. But yeah, so now we just have this as well. And then yeah, I'll just delete, oh no, I need to delete these ones as well. I'll just delete hidden here. Actually, no, I'm gonna do that next step. So yeah, now I'm gonna find it here. But in ZRemesher, I'm gonna turn on groups, keep groups. You can smooth the groups and then just go on half. And then ZRemesher. And what that's gonna do is like reduce the poly count and smooth out some of these corners. Because some of these are quite jagged. Yeah. And I can do that again. One thing is, it's now like, because I've done it with symmetry, this is all going to be one piece. I guess that's not too much of a problem. Half. Whoa. Yes, essentially draping in ZBrush and creating patterns. Yeah. So I'm just creating an error occurred. That's not good. Yeah, I'm basically just creating UVs, and then I'm going to create the like base pattern that I'm going to be sewing in Clo from the pattern in ZBrush, from the UV map, like, because I'm going to UV it in ZBrush, like water UV it, and then that'll give me a base that I can start building on.
Hi, I was.
I,
Could you do an entire workflow on ZBrush that's like sculpting avatar, creation, rigging, and creation of garments, like without using glue?
yeah, I could do that for the next one. For this one, I want to like sort of jump into Clo really quickly. I could definitely do that. I don't normally like in ZBrush when I do like sort of rigging, the closest thing I do is like posing. So what I'll do is, that mask isn't really great, but if I want to pose a character in ZBrush, what I'll do is use sort of the old transform gizmo. So I'll just mask this and taper the mask. And then when I'll use the old gizmo, and that will on rotate, and then I can pose this however I want. This isn't really rigging, but that's what I use to like pose the characters. You can also like move this. Does that help?
Yeah. Just to be clear, I wasn't making a request. I was just trying to find out if it's possible.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Normally like rigs like are made in another software, and it just ZBrush crashed. Nice. What's nice about ZBrush is it auto saves. Let's see how much we lost. Oh, nice. Did make a save. 53, 24, 10 minutes. That's not great. Nice. The one time it crashes. Yeah, so I mean, trying to think if I have another, so I don't have to do all that again. Just a quick save. I'm just gonna do it again quickly. Sorry, guys. The joys of 3D. When you're working in physical, this doesn't happen, which is nice. When you sculpt something, it's there forever. But you can't control Z, right? Which is, yeah. RGB. Why is that not working now? It's always a bit fiddly to get these to work. Yeah, there it is. I'm gonna just draw these out really fast again. One here. I don't have sculptures on, but should be okay. Okay, nice. Let's see plugin. No. These masks might be a bit too big. Oh, there, that's why. Yeah, nice. Okay, this time I'm gonna save it. And then, yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. Just keep groups and then half. Sure. I just try and how I work through software crashes. I just try and ignore them and not get frustrated. And then what I tend to find is that the next time you know what you're doing, so you do it faster. One time when I was like sort of learning Photoshop, I spent like 4 hours and didn't save, and my teacher was just like, "Do it again right now," and that's sort of my approach. And the second time, I did it way faster. So yeah, it's just one of those things in 3D. Like if you don't save, I mean, I've lost so many hours on not saving, especially with a sculpt. Like sometimes it's getting to a point where you like it, and then you just lose all of it, and then you can't get it to that point that you like it. But yeah, sorry, the second time I did it faster, right? Can you do paint water? Yeah, you just need to just get on with it, and then hopefully next time you should, I should say more than I do. But sort of, especially when you're sort of in like I don't want to say flow state, but when you're sort of working like and you're not really thinking about what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you get a crash, it's like, yeah, you don't tend to, when you're just thinking about what you're doing, you're not thinking about saving. Yeah, it's one of the most frustrating bits. So yeah, basically now I have, these are all coming up similar colors. So now I have like these, what are called polygroups in ZBrush, and what they do is like, you can do loads of different stuff with them. What I'm going to use them for here is to create UVs from. So now like I have like some mesh, like I don't really, unless I'm like optimizing for like AR or something, I don't really do manual retopology. And also at this point, oh, we don't have a, yeah, 1 second. I'm just gonna create a halt for, also I'm gonna keep this on the same. Um, Also at this point, I'm not worrying about like perfect topology, because even if I was optimizing this for AR, I would do this after I come out of Clo 3D, and then that's when you sort of have the flattened version, and then you line up the versions and stuff like that. Just gonna delete these two, delete hidden. So yeah, I mean, you can go more complex with sort of how many panels and shapes you want. But yeah, for now, this is sort of what it's looking like. Not great, but
Where did you learn your fashion basics from, if you didn't have a
I
training?
didn't really learn fashion design from anywhere. I studied CGI at uni, and then I just sort of fell into fashion. Um, yeah, I didn't have any like traditional fashion background at all.
Wow, that's crazy. Where did you, like, sort of learn, like, I guess you self-taught, but, like, where from in that case? Like,
Really like in terms of
anything.
like, is that in terms of fashion design, or is that in terms of sort of ZBrush?
Fashion design, I think, yeah.
Um, Nowhere really, to be honest. I just sort of try and, I think I know what I think looks cool, and I try and make that, but I just, yeah, I don't know. I just sort of try and wing it. I don't have any like, when it comes to patterns and stuff, I'm a bit, like I know sort of how stuff works, but I'm a bit sketchy, which is maybe why sometimes I do it this way. I do also like, I really like it, and I want to get like more into it, but yeah, when it comes to like the guidelines and stuff like that, I don't know what, like there's a lot of maths behind pattern making, right? And I need to get more into that. I want to do some like physical sewing and stuff. I think that would help. Do you guys have any like suggestions for how you could learn like more like pattern fundamentals, or on YouTube?
Um,
Yeah.
well, actually, because I come from a theater. Oh, sorry, someone muting.
Sure, that's so interesting. Yeah, let's connect after. I definitely want to learn more about sort of traditional pattern making because, yeah, I think it'd just be so useful. Um, yeah. So basically, what I'm gonna do here now is like, from these poly groups, I'm gonna save actually. What I'm gonna do is use UV masser with polygroups. So what that's going to do is just ticked, but what it's going to do is basically make the fundamentals of my pattern. So I mean that doesn't, this is looking a bit strange, but yeah, maybe I can do that with symmetry as well. Whoa, that's just done something weird. Let me just try it again with symmetry. Okay, cool. Now, yeah, I mean, this I'm gonna have to fix in ZBrush because there's something weird going on with the pattern here. Oh, it has to cut it here. That makes sense. Maybe let's just create another cut here. Also, like this, normally when I'm designing, there's like some more intention to this. I'm sort of doing on a whim. There's some more intention behind some of the stuff that I'm doing. So yeah, I'm just gonna create symmetry. So yeah, more UV. This guy's a bit weird. Okay. Oh. Yeah, so there's just basically a sliver here that I don't really look, I don't know if that's like an artifact. So I'm just gonna mask, I'm just gonna like select these with Control Shift click and then auto group them. Auto group basically means that any bit that's not connected is gonna like become its own polygroup. So it's just a way to separate them. And then what I can do is just delete that piece off and then do the UV again. More UV. Okay, that's looking a bit better. So yeah, so basically that's going to serve as like the fundamental of my, like the basis of my pattern. And then I can export this, call it, I don't care what we call it. It's Control and Shift and click. And then you can invert them with Control Shift and then like drag a rectangle outside. But if you Control Shift and then click on something, then that'll isolate that polygroup. But yeah, so now I have it exported in Marvelous Designer. What I'm going to do is I also need to, I'm going to export also the body. Also this body is going to be this body is like, if you look at the floor, it's above, it's in the right spot for Marvelous Designer, because when you first open a body in ZBrush, it's going to be like down there, and then you have to move it in Marvelous Designer. Also, what I did was ZBrush has a tendency of like degenerating your mesh if you don't export with, like, once you merge your polygroups, it like exports each one individual, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just grouped them. ZBrush has some weird stuff about it. But yeah, I think it's just the way, like, they've just added add avatar. So there's my avatar, and then I'm going to import add obj to garment. So what that's going to do is like trace my UVs as a pattern. So then, yeah, if you click this tick box, it's trace 2D patterns from UV map. Oh. Don't know why that didn't come in. Oh yeah, here it is. So then you basically have the garment inside of like the pattern, and you can, what I tend to do at this point is try and like make these symmetrical. So they're just easier to work with. So what I'll do is it's the opposite of the one that you think. But add a perpendicular line, then you cut here. Delete this part, symmetric pattern with sewing, and then just merge this line over. And then what that means is it's basically like working with symmetry in ZBrush. So if I move one of these, it will sort of, I don't have to worry about both different sides. Cut. Symmetric pattern with sewing. Merge. No. Then one last one. Let's delete this one. Merge. So yeah, now we have all the different pieces, and now it comes the fun part. Also, when it comes from ZBrush, like sometimes some of this stuff is messed up, and it also adds curved points everywhere. So, which is a bit annoying. If you want to refine this pattern more, I just delete the curve points and then add like sort of my own custom ones, but this is just how it imports from ZBrush. Now I have to go through and like see where these pieces line up basically. So I can see like from here to here, that's going to line up, I think. Yeah. Now this back piece. So I basically like, because I don't really know where the stuff is, I'll like click and then see where this lines up, basically. And then most of the time use the, not the segment sewing, the other one. Oh, that's not there. Here. So I just sort of try and guess until it works. I have to double click. Is that going to be flipped? No, that's okay. Are these sewed up? Yeah, that's sewed. Okay, there's some weird stuff going on here. Yeah. And it's just a point here that I need to get rid of. Here. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's a bit fiddly at this point, but is this going? But yeah, once I've sewed these parts, now what I do is just sort of try and, that's another point there. Some weird stuff going on here. I think this guy is going too far. So yeah, when stuff doesn't line up that well, I'll just use the, not the segment sewing tool, but the other one, which is really nice because it like gives you a guideline for where that pattern can go. Here to here. Well, okay, cool. Yeah, and so this, I mean, obviously, like I need to come in and refine all these parts, but it'll just give me a basis for like, obviously this bit is draping too much and like there's some decisions to be made here. But this, like I just use this part as sort of a baseline for how I start like working into the garment and working into the pattern. Yeah, and then I can go in, like I need to delete all these curve points and stuff because yeah, if I want to, for example, cut this more, I need to, yeah, I mean, I really don't love this right now, but yeah, just in terms of the workflow, what I do after this is like, do I need to set up UVs? I won't set up any UVs, but UV editor and then just fit 0 to 1. I'm glad you intend work. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't always do it this way, but this is just like one of the ways that I found interesting. But yeah, then after this, I'll probably export this to, and then set this to meters. Yeah, should be right. Then I'll import this back into, I didn't remesh it. Should I have remeshed it? Yeah, I can remesh it. Basically, yeah, the Marvelous Designer creates everything in tries, which I don't really like. So I'd probably put the particle distance down here. I mean, you guys probably have like experience in like sort of Marvelous Designer, so you know all this stuff, but no, I just do remeshing, so then that will make squares if it doesn't crash, which I haven't saved this as well. No, okay, that's all right. Export. Jeez. Then I can hide this old one. Yeah, I also sometimes I'll like clone these as well. Clone over, and then you can add some like pressure to it, so it becomes like not like a puffer jacket, but sort of so it has 2 layers to it. This might crash now because, oh no, it worked. And then yeah, if I just add some pressure to this. 1. It really doesn't like simulating after it's been remeshed. I probably should have done that before. But yeah, once I come back into Marvelous ZBrush, I sort of use this to add thickness and prepare it for render. So again, like it comes in with like one poly group. I mean, that isn't great. Maybe we'll just leave that. It's quite interesting with two. I'll just export that again. I'm gonna do the fit 0 to 1. Okay. Yeah, so I just have some UVs here. I mean, these aren't all good, but let me export this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can change the mesh from triangle to quad, yeah. Yeah, I think Clo doesn't have the same option. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can open that in Marvelous. Yeah, yeah. I have done that before. But yeah, it just like creates a bit nicer topology. I mean, obviously this isn't game ready, but what you would do if you want to make this game ready is sort of export like a flattened version of this and then sort of line up the quads. I can link it. Flip normal. This is a super good tutorial for, I mean, they use Maya, you can use Blender as well. Hey guys. For like making stuff game ready. If you want it to be I don't know if you guys have used this tutorial, but it's really good. Also, another guy that I really like for ZBrush tutorials is Michael Pavlovich. He's like he does so much cool stuff in ZBrush. He also has some Houdini tutorials, like for making stuff game ready and stuff like that. But I've learned basically not all my ZBrush, but a lot of my ZBrush from Michael Pavlovich. Yes, really cool. His intro to ZBrush playlist is so cool. He knows ZBrush so well. He does really cool stuff. And he doesn't like a lot of like tutorials a lot of the time they're like, yeah, we they just beat around the bush. He doesn't beat around the bush. He just gets there straight away. And he talks pretty fast, but that's what you want when you can watch a tutorial. Again, it's not like, so we're gonna rename this cube and whatever. But yeah, so once I come back into ZBrush, what I'll do is I have UVs here, and these UVs are like perfect because they're from straight from Marvelous Designer basically. So what I want to do is like keep those UVs. Like if you start, I'm just gonna save this. If you go in and like sort of touch this with like Z-Remesher or all, like if I wanted, I can add thickness in quite a few ways in ZBrush, but one of the ways is with ZModeler, and I could like just extrude with polygroup all, and then that works. But what happens is it crunches your UVs, so your UVs disappear, which is not what you want. So yeah, what I do is I'll create polygroups again with order groups. So now all of these different pieces are like all separate and different colors. And then what I can do from that is like crease polygroups. Also, I know I'm going fast with this masking menu, but with this like the custom UI thing, but all this stuff is in here and you can just search it on YouTube, like where is like order groups. It's here. Where is it now? ZBrush's UI. Somewhere in here you can find the order groups. But yeah, then I'll just crease the poly groups. So if you see here, it makes like a really little dotted line. And then I can subdivide this subdivide this twice to make some like nicer. Also, if you have folds and stuff, it makes them look nicer. Obviously, this back bit is really gross, but yeah. What I also do is like once I clone, oftentimes I'll like make one part of it like I'll remove the linked editing and make one of these parts like a bit bigger. So we get like folds. This is probably gonna not like, I'm doing all this on like the remeshed version, which isn't great, but I mean, that's way too big. But it'll basically create what's going on here, like all over it. So you can get some nice like folds across your garment. Yeah, and then basically when I add thickness, what I'll do is let me just check I still have UVs. Yeah, I still have UVs. I'll go into geometry and then edge loop and then use this panel loop. And if you use panel loop, what that means is that your UVs will stay, which is a really nice workflow. You need to delete, this has loads of geo now. I like do it with 0 bevel and elevation at -100. That's probably too much thickness. But yeah. Now you can see like this thickness. You probably wouldn't want that much thickness. This is just like to prepare it for render. If obviously like it's not suitable for animation and stuff, but if you're just doing a single render and then maybe divide again once. And yeah, that's sort of one way that I do stuff. Also another really useful hotkey is like I have this topological pinned here. You can find that somewhere up here as well. But basically I have that set to T. So what that means is like with any brush, it'll turn like if I use like sort of move without topological, it'll move everything. But then if I use it with topological, it'll just affect the geo that's connected. But yeah. That is sort of it. That's what I'm going to be showing. Oh yeah, and the final thing, yeah. The way if you do it with panel loops, you end up having perfect UVs still, which is really helpful. Yeah, cool. Does anyone have any questions? No? Or general questions, anything? Yeah, sure. If I was rigging this garment onto a model with animation, could you talk about the process of that? Yeah, so what I would do is I would like so when you import this mesh, like this mesh is also like the wrong geo. But what I would do is like import it as like I think an ABC last time I did it. And then you go into animation, so it'll have the animation. The first frame, or like -5, you want it to be in sort of A pose or T pose, so you can create the garment like that. And then oh, where is it? Somewhere here there's animation. Or maybe they've moved it in this version. Property history. Huh. Somewhere here. Do you guys know where it is? Basically in the last one, oh, animation, they moved it here. Yeah. And then you get a timeline. I think in Clo, or the last time I used this, you get a timeline, and basically the first frame of the shape, the first frame would be your avatar in A pose, and then he would start moving or whatever, and then you export it. I don't add thickness in the same way. I'd probably add thickness probably in Houdini. But yeah, I like that way in ZBrush, because if it's still, because I can go in and like sort of use like a load of ZBrush's tools as well. Like they've got some pretty cool like cloth tools. BC. So you can like edit stuff that isn't looking good. Yeah, is it FBX? Write down menu. Yeah, I thought it was up here. Do you have a whole animation editor? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you export out the garment as a Alembic. Perfect. Yeah. Do you know how? I remember last time. Oh, here's the timeline. Yeah, sure. So yeah, so basically you'd have your animated character in here, and then basically you'd click record and it simulates the garment, and then you export that as an ABC, I believe. I haven't done that in a while there. Yeah, it has to be already rigged and animated. Yeah. Yeah. You could also like make blend shapes in ZBrush. I'm not going to show that right now, but yeah. If this character was animated, it would be different. But yeah, cool. Yeah, sure, please. Yeah, for sure. One thing is that, yeah, when you import it into ZBrush, you get all those like segment parts. And another thing is like when it's if the sort of the pattern goes up from the body, then it flattens down. Also like for certain types of garment, I mean, I think you're gonna achieve a certain type of garment look with this, but if you want to make like another type of garment, this definitely isn't the way to do it. Like if you wanted to make a t-shirt, I don't think I would do it like this. You just sew the patterns like you normally would. It's just like an interesting, I sort of discovered this like recently, that you could import as a OBJ to garment. And I thought it was an interesting way to get like some weird looking patterns without having to like stay in Clo the whole time, because I like ZBrush. Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing you need to do is just make UVs, And then when you import them, you do UV from garment. So it'll trace the pattern from any object you have that has UVs. I just prefer doing it in sort of ZBrush, but you can definitely do it in Blender. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Thank you so much. I hope that it was of any help to you guys. Um, yeah, I don't really I don't do it in, I mean sometimes I do like traditional pattern sewing, but yeah, I just thought this workflow was sort of interesting. I sort of discovered it, so I thought I'd share it. Something in the chat. How do you adjust? Um, yeah, that the Marvelous Designer good topology workflow that I linked, that's a really good way to optimize garments. You basically export them flattened. You export like two different versions of your garment, like one flattened and the other one sort of in the shape. And then because you do inside of Clo, you'll go here and do reset patterns 2D arrangement, and then you export this, and then basically in one way or another, like you retopologize the flattened version, and then you export that, and then you merge the verts where it's flattened. I don't know if I'm explaining that at all well, but then you basically wrap it around and then merge the verts once it's come together. But if you want like a truly optimized garment, that is, yeah, the way to do it. I'll thank you for linking my stuff. If anyone wants to chat or like get in touch, please just message me. Cool. Is there any other questions? No. Cool. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you.